Today we expose the shocking hypocrisy behind one of the LDS Church's top leaders, Elder Kevin W. Pearson. Kevin is currently a member of the first quorum of the 70 of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In this episode, we're going to highlight 5 of his really horrific teachings, dive into his terrible rhetoric, and then we're going to get into his corrupt business past. This is an unholy trifecta. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Mormon News Roundup, your go-to source for the latest headlines and critical analysis on all things LDS.
Breaking news.
Join D-Vase.
Mormon News Roundup.
That's talent on loan from Kolob. Every Sunday and Monday night.
We will uncover the truth behind the news that matters most to the Mormon community.
First up, Pearson wants LDS senior members to serve 2 missions.
We've invited you here tonight because we want to extend an invitation to each of you to serve. Will you prayerfully consider serving 2 missions? Not 1, but 2. A full-time proselyting mission, if your health permits, and a service mission here in Utah as well. The sequence is not important, but the call to serve is crucial.
What Pearson doesn't say is that these missions come at your expense, not his. Senior missionaries are expected to cover their own housing, travel, food, and healthcare. Many couples drain their life savings or dip into retirement funds just to volunteer full-time for a church that hoards over $400 billion in stocks, cash, and real estate. But Pearson, he's doing just fine. He doesn't have to pay a dime. In fact, quite the opposite. He gets paid handsomely while asking others to sacrifice.
That's not fair.
And Pearson's toxic counsel doesn't end there. In this second clip, Pearson pushes blind obedience for youth. In fact, he says that you're not supposed to pray to God.
Do not pray about whether or not you should go on a mission. Dumb question. When it's the commandment from a living prophet and it's your priesthood duty, that's a given.
You don't want to pray?
Now, you can pray to have the courage. You can pray to have a confirmation of that in your life. But asking Heavenly Father, who's commanded his prophet to command you to go, whether or not you should go, seems like not a very good thing to be asking God.
Don't tell me prayer doesn't work.
Not a very good thing to be asking God.
Please, God, I don't ask you for much.
Right?
Don't ask! For God's sakes, don't ask!
Right?
The price is wrong, bitch.
So here Pearson literally tells young men not to pray about whether they should go on a mission. Imagine that. One of the core teachings of the church, I thought, was to ask of God if you lack wisdom, but suddenly that's thrown right out the window when it threatens institutional control. Pearson's message is clear. Don't think, don't question, just obey.
Not cool.
In our third harmful clip, Pearson is going to tell us that he knows you better than you know yourself, because you are not who you think you are.
Will you start praying about that? Because you are not you.
You are not you. You're me. No shit.
You are not who you think you are.
You are not you.
And as long as you only have the perception or the identity that you have now when you look in the mirror, you will never have the drive or the desire to be smarter and wiser than any previous generation. And you'll never fully embrace the divine identity that President Nelson said that you have.
You are not you.
What kind of manipulative garbage was that? Pearson essentially tells members that they aren't who they believe that they are because he and the church know better. This is gaslighting dressed up as spiritual advice. You are not you.
What the hell?
In Pearson's next harmful teachings, he's going to teach us why Mormon temples are a lot more important than charity. He brags that there's going to be 1,000 temples in our lifetime, and then says that the church has absolutely no obligation to help the poor.
Is it conceivable that we would get to over 1,000 temples in your lifetime?
God, I hope not.
Let's not.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely certain.
Whatever, dude.
Now that'll take a lot of money.
Rich bastards.
Okay? Where will that come from?
Hoarding.
Get people wondering what the church is doing with its money.
Doing nothing.
But the purpose of the church is not to feed the poor and the needy of the world.
They all starved.
But the purpose of the church is not to feed the poor and the needy of the world.
That's very selfish.
That's right. In one breath, he boasts about how the church plans to build 1,000 temples, and in the next, he coldly asserts that the church has no obligation to assist the poor.
This guy sucks.
This tells you everything that you need to know about his and the church's priorities. What Pearson really cares about is adult tithe payers. And we're going to find out later how much this man loves money. But in the meantime, is it your eternal soul that matters to God? Or is it the money that you bring into his real estate empire, which masquerades as a church? Well, let's find out.
One thing we learned from statistic years ago is if you take two young men, both can come from wonderful families. One decides to go on a mission, the other decides not to go on a mission. One thing we can tell about your posterity 3 generations out is this missionary, his posterity will account for 0.8 active tithe-paying adult members of the church. 3 generations out, you're like my age. The one who goes, his posterity accounts for somewhere between 18 and 20 active adult paying, tithe-paying members of the church. 0.8, 20. You get the picture?
Absolutely shameful. But taking apart Pearson's public statements is honestly like shooting fish in a barrel. So let's shift to his past, which, wait for it, is even worse.
It's getting worse.
Before he was Elder Pearson, he was Kevin Pearson, CEO of Ingenix, a subsidiary of UnitedHealth Group. EngineX was one of the most corrupt medical data companies in modern U.S. healthcare. But get this, from 1998 to 2005, under Pearson's leadership, EngineX orchestrated a massive scheme that manipulated insurance data for profit.
That's outrageous.
Now, here's how it worked. When a patient saw a doctor outside of their insurance network, the insurer would reimburse them based on what was considered the usual and customary charge in the area. And here's where the scam kicked in. Enginex controlled the data. It maintained the database that the insurers, including its parent company UnitedHealth, used to determine those rates. And that's where the rate manipulation came in. Enginex was found to intentionally suppress reimbursement rates by using flawed or cherry-picked data. This let insurers pay patients and doctors less than what the services actually cost. This meant that patients were left footing a much larger part of the bill, and providers, well, they were underpaid. But guess who profited from all of it? That's right, Enginex and Kevin Pearson himself. This entire scam left patients like Mary Jerome, who was battling ovarian cancer, on the hook for tens of thousands of out-of-pocket costs. Cancer patients, parents of sick children, and struggling families were financially devastated, while Pearson and his team, well, they raked in the profits. Enginex didn't just miscalculate. They engineered a system to underpay claims and leave patients holding the bag. It was one of the most brazen cases of healthcare fraud in recent memory. But don't just take my word for it.
One of the nation's biggest health insurers has agreed to pay $50 million to settle accusations that it overcharged millions of customers. New York's Attorney General charged UnitedHealth Group and its subsidiary Oxford with using a research firm the company itself owns to manipulate reimbursement rates. The result here was that customers ended up paying far more for so-called out-of-network medical costs than they should have. UnitedHealth said it disagrees with the charges of manipulation, but they settled the case, they say, to avoid accusations of conflict of interest.
And it gets even worse. In 2006, not long after Pearson left the company, the SEC, the IRS, and the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York launched multiple investigations into UnitedHealth and Ingenix. The New York Attorney General called it what it was: fraud. Eventually, UnitedHealth Group settled for $350 million in a class action lawsuit due to the misconduct of its Enginex division. And Pearson, well, he walked away with millions, avoided all accountability, and quietly transitioned into full-time religious leadership in Salt Lake City, Utah.
The Department of Justice is launching an investigation into UnitedHealth Group. The agency is looking at potential fraud in the health insurer's Medicare Advantage program, specifically how the company records diagnoses that leads to extra payments. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. The company said it has full confidence in its practices, but is cooperating with the investigation.
Now this same man, enriched by defrauding cancer patients, stands at the pulpit and tells poor elderly church members to sacrifice even more.
Will you prayerfully consider serving 2 missions? Not 1, but 2.
Serve more, pay more.
0.8, 20. You get the picture?
And suffer more. Meanwhile, Pearson enjoys a 6-figure compensation package paid by your tithing dollars.
Must be nice.
He also enjoys first-class flights, Cadillac health insurance, church-provided security, VIP treatment. In short, Kevin has made an art and a living out of lying for the Lord. So let's be clear, church leaders are definitely paid. They're not sacrificing like you are. They're not living frugally like senior missionaries are told to. And with men like Pearson in charge, is it any wonder that the LDS Church has been caught lying to the federal government about its finances? Think about it. Shell companies, fake names, hidden assets, off-the-book investments, and then they ask you to have more faith?
Hypocrite.
Look, this isn't just about one man giving some bad advice. It's about a pattern, a system that exploits faith, manipulates trust, and hides behind a veil of holiness while enriching itself off of the back of everyday members. Elder Kevin Pearson is the perfect embodiment of this toxic system. A man who got rich defrauding cancer patients, but now demands unpaid labor from retirees, all while collecting a six-figure paycheck from a church that sometimes pretends that he's just a volunteer. Kevin gaslights the youth, pressures the elderly, and praises an institution that builds 1,000 temples while openly disclaiming any duty to help the poor.
The purpose of the church is not to feed the poor and the needy of the world.
So the next time a church leader asks you to serve, just remember a couple of things. They're not sacrificing. You are. They're not paying the price. You are. They're not living the gospel. You are. And when the smoke clears, all that sacrifice flows in one direction, up the pyramid, straight to corrupt men like Kevin Pearson. So no, this isn't about serving two missions or following the Savior. It's about who's being used and who's cashing in.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.